Welcome back. Today I'm going to install this Forest Products dampening stiffener into my table saw. If you're running a thin curved blade, sometimes you might notice that the blade wobbles a little bit. This will help stiffen it up. Watch and find out. So this Forest Products dampener stiffener disc, it's a 4-inch disc. It will help stiffen up your blade so that if you're running a thin curved blade that you won't need it. One of my blades is a thin curved blade. I use it more frequently than my other blade. If you noticed, I just had a video of me cleaning blades. One was a crosscut blade, which is good for doing crosscut stuff with my crosscut sled. The other one was the original blade that came with my table saw. Both those are full curve, but the one I primarily use is not. It's a thin curve, and I use that a lot of times when ripping. So I need something with a little more stiffness to keep that blade from flexing as much and therefore putting as much marks in my thing. I'll link this down below in the description in case you want to check them out, but let's get started on upgrading the table saw. First thing we need to do is unplug our table saw, which I've already done, and then I need to remove the insert here. Since I'm still running the stock one, it's pretty much straightforward. And then to make things easier, I'm going to crank the blade, raise the blade height all the way up. Because once it's all the way up, it's easy to get access to the nut. And then I'm just going to use a block of wood to put in here to keep the blade from spinning. Give it a little twist. Remove the nut. So I don't need to remove the blade, but I do need to make sure the blade is perfectly clean. There's no dust or anything on it, or any wood chips. And do the same with the dampener. So once everything is clean, I'm just going to slide the dampener stiffener plate on. And it's important to make sure that you put your retainer ring back on. There's no dust or dirt in between it either. Put your nut back on. And then again, I'm just using a piece of board here to catch the tooth. I'm just going to kind of lightly tighten it because this is a thin curve. It'll help reduce the flex. It will reduce my cut down some. I take my straight edge here, cut down to about 2.5 inches. But for me, 2.5 inches is more than plenty for the stuff I cut. I don't tend to cut through a 2x4 like this. I will only be able to cut so far through it. Now I'm going to lower the blade back down so it's out of the way. I don't accidentally hit it with my insert. Just going to put my insert plate back in. Tighten down the screw, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 2x4, which is just a piece of scrap I have, and I'm going to cut a very thin piece of wood off this side here and see how well it does. One thing you got to remember with this plate, if you're running a zero clearance insert, you got to remember that you can't raise that up. You got to take into account that the maximum distance that it can cut is to the bottom of your plate. So you don't want to lift your plate up if you hit it with that dampener and then stiffener. I got this up high enough. I'm going to plug it back in, turn on dust collection. We're going to make a thin strip cut here and see how well it comes out. As you can see, there's a little bit of marking here, but there's not too much. For the most part, it's pretty smooth and really clean. The other side, you can see it's a lot more rough where the board was vibrating, and then even to some degree here it was vibrating a little bit, not as bad. So it made pretty good cut. You can see how thin this piece is. I mean, it's pretty thin all the way down through there. So it's like shaving veneer off of a 2x4. Really thin. I think this really helped out. Look, you can even see my hand shadow behind that. It's so thin. Didn't tear it out, so there was minimal vibration. So I think it really will help improve the cuts using a thin kerf blade, and I'm looking forward to using it and ending up with some nice clean cuts overall. So after that really fast upgrade to my table saw, it really cuts some really thin material now without blade, you know, oscillating or flexing or anything, which can tear up your material or put sawtooth marks into your material. I think it's a good investment. I'm going to use it now on these thin kerf blades. My regular full kerf blades, I will not use it just because they're stiff as it is, but these thin ones tend to flex a little bit. So I'm looking forward to cutting some material and using the blade with a lot less sawtooth marks in it. I'll put a link down below in the description so that you can check it out if you want it. They make them in 4-inch and 5-inch sizes. Again, they're from Forest Products, good quality stuff. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.